Part 2 of the video, part 2. So the next job is to clean the pocket watch, and what I intend to do is speed all that up in the video because I've got other videos showing the cleaning of the watch. Then I will examine each of the jewels to make sure there's no cracking in the jewels that would cause undue friction after I've cleaned it. And cleaning in lighter fluid, old school way, and then peg out the holes, old school way, and then oiling everything during and after I've reassembled. I'm also going to do some maintenance on the mainspring, stretch it out a bit, clean it, and put a very thin layer of oil on it. And then cleaning it with a rag with a little bit of oil on it, that's all. And then I'm going to reassemble the whole thing completely. I'm going to adjust the bead error by putting the balance on top of the bridge and seeing if I can see the delta in the degrees, the amount of degrees from the center of the balance staff through to the stud, and then through to the edge of the balance itself. I think I'm repeating myself a lot. Yeah, that's all, folks. So I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to. Those are my Bugs Bunny impersonations. And then I'll reassemble it all, and I'll test it. And if the bead error is still off again, I'll just take the balance off, and I'll adjust the bead error, hopefully in situ, have it just sort of dangling, the balance dangling, and just adjust it with a very fine screwdriver blade and rotate it left or right, depending on where the bead error is. So that's what I'm going to do, finish that, regulate it, and that's this video. So I hope you enjoy it. Let me see where the off button is so I can turn the off button off, on, off, whatever. So this is the main plate of the pocket watch. So what I'm going to do here is examine each one of these jewels in this very nice stereo microscope. And it's got a light here that's going to be pretty bright, and I'll go through and look at all the jewel holes to make sure that there's no issue with the with the jewel holes and etc. etc. So when I was cleaning the pocket watch, the jewel that's for the center wheel just came out, so it's not set properly or something. So I'll have a look at that as well. I do have the jewel. It's in the center target of my mat, so I don't lose it, and I'll figure out which direction it needs to go in because it's conic, so it's probably facing downward. But I'll have a look at that. It's not a significant issue unless I had actually lost the jewel. Lucky I saw it in the lighter fluid during the cleaning. So I'm going to be looking at this and looking at all the jewel holes, and we'll go from there. So I lost some video for a second there, but I took out the cap jewel for the escapement, or for the balance. So the lower pivot of the balance staff would go through that, and I took out the cap jewel, cleaned it, oiled it, put it back in. I'm going to put the two little screws back in there and continue on from there, bottom screw and top screw. I organized them so they can go right back in the same place. So I'll cancel this video because it'd be boring as heck to watch. Time for the assembly. I don't think I'll talk my way through the assembly because I really want to focus on other things. So I will not talk my way through the assembly, which I normally would do. But I'm not going to do it this time. I know that that's not going to work very well. I got some gears that are just sitting here in awkward positions, so I gotta make sure all these gears are in the right place. I'm going to take a look at a picture, and then I'm going to come back, because this gear looks like it goes under something and the other one goes over something, and oh my god, what is with all these gears? I know this one goes underneath the this goes in place right here because the mainspring goes on top of that. So let me just get working on the gears, and I'll be back later. So to assemble this watch properly, you need to put it into the movement holder, otherwise it won't sit right. So some of these parts have got to be in place before the assembly will work. And the appropriate pivots, or the appropriate gears, have got to drive the appropriate pinions. And so everything has got to be perfectly in place. So I'm going to fart with this because it's going to be boring for you to watch, but I'm going to be assembling this and making sure that everything is in its right hole. That's what's going to happen. I severely hope so. And I just have to clean the pallet fork a bit. So I usually use a bit of Rodico to clean the tip of the pallet fork, so that the jewels are nice and clean, and you can wipe those off and go under the stereo microscope and have a look at it. So instead I use lighter fluid, and I'm going to blow it off really quick. I don't think it affects the jewel. So in this case, the pallet fork has got these little guard arms on the top that have to be in the right place. So I got to very carefully, I'm going to turn the lighting down here so I can get the overhead lighting, which gives me a better look at it, and turn up the overhead lighting so that I can have a really good look at this thing, which might not be good for taping, but really it is really good for assembly work. So the other thing I want to do is avoid the pivots, and this is a tricky little movement to put back together again. It's probably why it costs so much, I think. And I got to look at this through other goggles too to make sure it's in place. It's like working on that Rolex I was working on. So I'm going to cut this out and go ahead and struggle with it. Alright, that nasty little pallet fork is now in place, but I got to go find a screw for this. Somehow I it's in there. It's mixed up with some other screws in there, but I'll find it. Alright, I found the evil screw. It was just misplaced, slightly misplaced. And so it should be able to go in now, no problem. And I thought it was the one for the balance. So make sure there's movement here. Yeah. Before I tighten it down. There we go. I'll just check all the edges to make sure it's down completely. And now I can put the fourth wheel back in, because I took that out, and that is the wheel for the second hands, as we all know. So very carefully put the fourth wheel back. I said carefully, didn't I? I gotta get another goggles on. Other goggles. My lighting is off again. I don't want to grab the pivot so I can grab the shaft, but I may get my I may need to take out my thingamajobby. So that's in there now, but that looks like the alignment of this particular gear with this particular, oh no, it's the line on the bottom, so the gear is hitting the pinion on the bottom of the fourth wheel, and then this gear on the top wheel is hitting the pinion on the top of the escapement. So that's how it works. Aha! So that's that part. Now, if I could put the top plate on, life would be good. So I don't know sure if I can actually put on this top plate and not worry about the mainspring going back in. So I'll have to check that out and be right back. So when I put this plate on, I do put the screws in, but not tight. I just lay them in, and so the plate doesn't dance around. And then I will nudge the pivots on the top of those wheels to fit them into position, so that there are no issues there. So again, I'm going to hold the plate down with a toothpick just a little bit, so I can find the slots for those screws. There we go. I gotta find home, and then you don't tighten them at all. Not a bit. Because the pivots for those wheels need to find home. So, and I just lean sideways here and look underneath and figure out what I need to nudge to get the pivots in place. And sometimes it's just a little tiny bit of a nudge that has to happen, and sometimes it's more. So it's an art, I think. I've done this a million times. Various pocket watches, and I'm sure this is a part that people don't like. It's a lot worse with a full plate. So full plate. So I'll nudge those into. So you can go to the dollar store, or sorry, craft store, and buy one of these little hooks, and they're great. You just nudge the highest gear, or the highest pivot. It's usually the biggest one, and then get that in, and then the second one drops right in, and the screws drop down, and you're good to go. And again, while you're adjusting this, you should always move the wheels to make sure they're free before you tighten the screws down. Otherwise, you're asking for trouble. And I know trouble is not your middle name, but you're definitely asking for trouble by not doing that. So, and you'll squish a pivot. So I tighten this up a bit, and I don't tighten the plates fully until I've got the thing assembled and I know that the gear train runs. So those are not tight, they're just a little tiny bit snug. And you look on the edges here as well to make sure there's no gaps. And then you know the gear train is in there nice and tight, so there's no problem there, right? So I've got to do a little bit of work on the mainspring here, and then from there I will rewrap the mainspring in, and then get the mainspring around the pivot. Put this this stuff back together again, and then I should be good to go. Good to go. So let me, where is that mainspring? Who's got the mainspring? There it is. So I need to take that mainspring with a cloth, and I need to get that into place. I don't know how people do this with gloves on, by the way. I've tried. I can't. I apologize, but I will definitely wipe this mainspring down, and then I'll oil the top of it. So just in case there's any stuff left over in this. We'll be able to see this when I wipe it down. And these are stiff mainsprings, so you got to watch that you don't bend it too much, because that'll break it. So I just do that, and then I'll rewrap it in the coil. So there we go. I always clean inside the, I clean this with lighter fluid, but I also wipe it down inside with Rodico, and just to catch anything that might be stuck there, and then roll the gears. Again, they're wiped down nicely, so, but you should roll the gears to make sure there's nothing in there as well. And then I can snap this mainspring back into place. So the first thing I got to do is hook it in the arbor, which is a little tricky. So it might be easier than your normal spring to do this, but I got to hook it in the arbor. Actually, I got to hook it in the arbor after I wind it around. So, and then it goes around this barrel first, because it hooks on the inside of that. So I had it a little bit backwards there for a second. It's like that. So I'm going to look and see where that hook is. There's a little fancy hook there. So just turn that around and align that up like so, and try to feed that into the barrel, and then I got to wind this in by hand. So I may turn this off because it's not an easy job to do, and I'm sure doing it under camera makes it even harder. Is that in? It's always hard to tell whether you got it in or not. It's got to be like that. So I think I'll turn the camera off while I fart around with this and roll it in, because it's pretty difficult to do. There, I have it hooked, so I'll just show you the struggle as I roll it in, keeping pressure down on the mainspring at all times. This is the old way they used to do it. They had mainspring winders, but they used to just roll it in like that. And you got to be careful not to bend it at any 90-degree angle or anything, because you could very easily snap this mainspring. And like I said before, then you're trying to source a crazy mainspring or make a new hook on it, or something which I've done in the past, and it's not easy, because then you have to temper the spring and temper the hook and then rivet it on, and I don't do it very often, so this would be a new, relatively new thing for me to do again, only because I don't do this sort of thing very often. So, and when you get to the end here, I just almost lost it there. You do not want to lose it, because it'll just fly right out on you. You've got to hold on. You got to hang on to this thing for dear life, because it will fly off and cause all kinds of problems. Right at the end is tricky, because it wants to not be in there. So just roll that around, and then there we go. So that's the mainspring snugly in place, and I look on the other side and I can see the little tiny hook there. So that's how you roll in a mainspring. And then I've got to put a little bit of oil on the top, and I know someone told me what type of oil to use, but I use this type of oil, and I just do 4 lines of oil. 1, 2. The mainspring is eating this right up. It's a big mainspring, so I may do a little more. 3, and then 4, and I'll do one more here because this ate it right up. Yeah, there you go. So that's that. And then the barrel hoping I got everything in the right direction. I'll look at my I've done this before, so I'm going to look at the quickly look at the diagram. All right, it's my lucky day. It's in the right right way. It's in the right way. So I'm going to put a little bit of oil on the arbor here too. Right there where it goes through. And you don't need much, just anything reduced to friction, that's all. And then put that back in, and we're all good. Alright, lots of fun, man. The jewel kind of just popped out of the top here. The jewel with its casing here just popped out, but or setting, but it's supposed to. So, and then the top of this part here holds all that in. So it's again, no assembly instructions provided at all. So I've oiled the jewel in there as well already, so that's good. The mainspring is hooked in now, so that's also good. So everything is good there. So what I need to do, I need to reassemble this part here, and to put it back down. I don't have a stem to put it in, so what I've done in the past, unless I put the movement stuff in there, is I've just put some Rodico in the bottom to hold it all in place while I put that in. So I could perhaps I'm not sure if it can drop in from the other side. I don't think so, because I think that you have to have the whole stem and everything in place. So, but let me see what I can do to make this happen. So this would be like this. This would be at an angle like this. Let me speed this one up after, because it's going to kill me, right? And just get that gear in there somehow. Come on, get in there. Come on. There we go. So that gear is in like that, and then this crown wheel would be facing on the outside, I believe, because this part of the gear grabs the other side. So like that. Like that. So let me just put a little bit of grease on that first before I commit. So I'm going to put a little oil on it. I don't think I'll grease it. I think I'll oil it. Oil it. A little thicker oil. And I just put it on one side, and that'll spread around perhaps. A little bit here. You don't want oil to travel, so you don't want to put too much on because it will travel. So just need to put a little tiny bit on there, and then I'm going to oil these after I have them in place. So just push that back in. It's funny, once again, when I did that Rolex, I did wear gloves for the Rolex, but I was up pretty close. I was using my portable watch, portable bench that I bought for $1,000. There we go. That's perfect. And I can't forget this little tiny screw here. This guy belongs to these little tiny screws over here, so you don't want to lose it. And now I should be able to put the plate back on, but I do want to oil. I do want to lubricate in the inside here just a bit, and just to make the oil pass around just a bit for winding and other things. And I'm guilty of not taking off this little crown wheel, but its movement is perfect. And it's just for winding, so I'm not too concerned. I want to make sure the gears are good in there, and the crown part is good. Excuse me. That, and then a little bit of oil here. And these are bigger gears, or bigger jewels, so they can take thicker oil. I've got other videos showing how to oil a pocket watch. So that's that part, and then I just flip that in and around and pray. That's the last step here when I do this. So I put this in, And I'm going to start praying any second now. Oh, I forgot something. I forgot the center wheel. It goes in now. Oh, the other thing with the center wheel is I have a center wheel jewel that I need to place in. And it kind of goes, the center wheel jewel. Yeah, so the center wheel jewel that I had before, it's conic, and it goes in cone down. So, and I'm not sure if that'll stay in because it's, I believe it's burnished in. So I'm going to take out the mainspring barrel again and have a close look at this jewel to make sure it's in fine, because it came out when I was cleaning it. It just sort of didn't pop out, it just sort of moved out. So I'm not sure if this just sits down again and there's no issue, because it looks like it just sits there. But the strange part of it, I guess the center wheel would have to go all the way through anyway and sit on that, so, which is fine, which means I should put a little bit of oil on that part of the center wheel that would touch that jewel, right, which would be probably right here, right there. And I'm going to look at that jewel under a microscope again and make sure that's good. So that jewel just kind of sits there, right there. So it's kind of odd, but it just sits there, which is strange but true, and right in there, so that the center wheel would just drop right down. So I can take the center wheel, or the mainspring here, put that back in. I need to put some glasses on because I don't have any on right now. I'm blind, Jerry, completely blind. Blindly putting this in place here. I get my glasses on. These are these things here, and hoping this video isn't 3 hours long. And just take this center wheel here, it's all cleaned up, nicely ready to rock and roll, and just put this center wheel right in place. So very carefully, of course. So I'm going to just drop this through the jewel hole like that, and then down it goes. And it's got to clear this pinion here, because right now it's just sort of sitting there, but it's got to clear the pinion and then drop in. Come on, drop in. I got to play with it to drop it in, I think. Nope, I may have something here. No, I don't think so. I'll have to have a closer look at that to make sure there's nothing blocking that. So I believe it found its home. So I'm going to drop the plate down and pray again. See, I told you I do a lot of praying. Why is this moving when I do that? Not sure. Drop the plate down and pray. So there we go, plate's down. Make sure that's in the right place. That's in the right place. Is that gear in there? I may have to do some nudging again. I think it's in the right place. Oh, there we go. So the mainspring just dropped into place, which is nice. And I think I need a drink of water. So I've been at this since around 9:30, and it is 1:15 right now. So that's a lot of time, man. And it's only because this is a very high-end watch with all these jewels and everything else that's causing the issues. And those cap jewels that are used for the various parts of the watch there. The second, third, and fourth wheel. Third and fourth wheel. So again, I'm not tightening these a lot. And what I'm going to do, I should run the train, but before I put the pallet fork in, but I had to put the pallet fork in because it had to go over the escapement because of that fancy-dancy thing that it's got. I have to look up that and see how that works. But I'll just tighten this down just a bit and not a lot. and that's good there. So that's good there. The jewel's on top there. And I'm just going to check and see if there's any cracks, clearance cracks, and it looks like it's all good. And I just need to place place this back on and make sure everything is lined up there. So I grab this here and just this goes on like that on top. That jewel goes down like that, and there, that goes in like this. I think that's tucked in nicely, maybe, yes, I think. And then this guy goes right over all of that. I think this jewel is up too high. Something feels weird about this. That it's not sinking down, which is could be a problem. I could have to take this apart again and try to sink that down, because I don't think it's supposed to be like that. So unless it sits on top of everything, which doesn't make any sense either, because then how do you hold it in? How do you hold it in? Not sure, folks. I'm gonna have a look at the picture and then come back. All right, I'm a total idiot. I looked at my photo and I got to flip the jewel the other way. So that was the issue. And now this plate can go on top of that. So this will be the first time I've done any work on one of these watches, the Veritas. So that would go on like that. And now I'm going to put these screws back in place. Hopefully I got the right ones in the right holes. So I'm not going to show you me do that because it's going to take. All right, all three screws are back in place. The jewel's in the right place on the top. The gears seem to be free. Just move that a bit here and see. So I think I've got pallet fork movement here. So what I'm going to do is see if I can put a bit of pressure on the mainspring and see if I get a snap on the pallet fork. So I do that by grabbing my my bench keys. My biggest one, I think, is what I used before. So this one here. And let me see, where is the hole? Where is the hole? It's over here on the side. And let me see if this will actually wind for me. There we go. Alright, nothing's happening. You know why nothing's happening? Because I'm missing some gears. That's why it won't wind. If you turn this by hand though, right, if I were to turn this by hand like that, and I could touch this to see if there's a snap on it. Yep, there it is. So I put the world's smallest amount of wind on this by hand just to see if I had a snap on it, and I do. So I got to assemble some of the other side in order to get the winding mechanisms working properly. So hopefully I didn't miss anything. And I got to tighten the plates here, so I should do that first because I will forget. So everything kind of is in the right place. All the things are in the right holes. Everything seems to be working correctly. So tighten those plates and turn this baby around and see how good it is when you don't have the hairspring to deal with. So just tighten this up a bit so I can access the top part and see if I can remember how to put that together, right? I know I've got some gears to drop in, like this one here, and some plates to drop in, right? So, but I need to also do some minor oiling of this stuff so it's nice and free free, I tell you, nice and free. And again, you just put the smallest amount of oil on there, the smallest amount of oil on there, and that'll just slide right in there. There we go. And now it's accessing the thingamajiggy. So I've got to put the this in now, and then put the spring in after. So whatever this thing is called. So this goes in, I believe, like so, right? And then this goes into the hole here, which moves it back and forth, or forth and back. And then this is screwed on the top. See if I can get this first shot. What do you think? First shot. And I got to back it out and make sure the threads are nice and not causing any issues. There we go. So that's in, and I've got that in tight, so hopefully that it's supposed to be in tight. I can tell by just moving it here, jogging it, so that's not going anywhere, which means I need to loosen that just a bit. I believe that's how it goes. There we go. Yeah, there we go. So see, the screw stays in place, so I'm just tightening it just a bit. See if I got movement still. Yeah, I do. So, and you know what I'm going to do is put a little tiny bit of oil on there so the plate doesn't cause it to move. And I'm just going to slide the oil right underneath that screw there, so I've got a little less friction under there, and a little more, because all this needs to do is slide back and forth, right? And then if I put too much oil on after I tighten the screw, I can get rid of it with Rodico. So tighten that up a bit, and I think I got to loosen it up a bit, but that's, yeah, a little bit too tight. And that's perfect there, probably. Yeah, there we go. That's nice, and that's perfect. So that should stay in place, no problem. And then the spring that I said you should always put together with a bag on it, that spring just rests. I think it just rests right here. I'll have to look at my photo again, but I think it's just resting right here, maybe. I'm going to look at my photo to make sure I didn't miss anything on that, okay? Back in a... Alright, I solved my problem. It took about an hour. Turns out there's a spring underneath this little part here that causes this part to snap back this way, and I did not see the spring underneath there. So it's oh my god, that's all I gotta say, is that it was an adventure until I stripped it down again and said, okay, what is this? And there's a little pawl, and there's a spring right under there. So, and this spring is basically lined up so it fits in. It's fitting in there like that, and it's going to be tricky to get this in place because it's gonna, you kind of have to snug it in and then move it, right? So I'm going to try to do that and go from there. Alright, it's done. I got it working again. It was a pain in the butt, man. So there we go. It's working perfectly. It stays in place unlike before. All the screws are nice and tight. And there was a little tiny spring right underneath this that I didn't see, and there's a pawl that was facing downward that needed to be part of that spring. So that was kind of a, I guess it was a failure on my part, but I didn't see the spring, and you know what? Sometimes you just don't see the spring, so that kind of sucked because it took a bit of time there. But all in a day's work, as they say. So now I just have to reassemble the ratchets and stuff and then I should be able to get this thing going again. So that's the story, and I'm sticking with it. And I believe this goes on this side like that, just like that. So I'll look at that. I'll look at the picture again and make sure I got that right. That looks pretty good there, actually. Should just fall in place. I'm not sure whether it's square with this or not, but it might be square with it, because it usually is. So I have to just nudge that in place and get it square. I wound the watch up a bit, and now it's snapping nicely. So we'll see whether the amplitude is good again or not. And the last piece is kind of put on the back here. Screwdriver is way too big for this screw. Not a good thing. Revise screwdriver and then start again. Screw that in nice and tight there so it doesn't go anywhere. Make sure this is nice and loose. That's good. And I just have to put in the cannon pinion. I think I'm good. Yeah, I think I am good. So, and that cannon pinion, I'm hoping it just snaps straight down, which would be nice. Then I wouldn't have to worry about anything, right? So you just have a look at the gears and make sure they're lined up from the top. This is what you always do with a cannon pinion. Plus I don't want to press down on this unless the plates are supported, so I'm going to just open this up a bit and make sure I have a broader surface of support here, like that. That's not bad there. Everything is supported, so I just line this cannon pinion up with the gears of the minute wheel, so I don't have, and then just push straight down. I often like to use a stake for this because it's uniform pressure on the cannon pinion. So I'm going to grab a stake here, and not the type you eat, but a bigger one, and just see if I can push straight down on this. If this stake is big enough, I'm not sure if it is, but let's try it out here. No, it needs to be a little bit bigger. I'm not sure if I have a bigger one than this, but actually I do. I have this one. We'll go one size more. Sizemore. It's like a Sizemore graph. And again, align the leaves of the spring on the cannon pinion here with the leaves down below. See if that goes over the top all the way. Sort of. Yeah, actually it does. It's a nice fit. Again, I'm going to look down because I think I shifted that a bit. Just move that over just a bit. And I got to push this straight down. And hopefully it goes into place. There we go. And I think that's in place. Let's go a little bit lower. Make sure there's action on the minute wheel. There we go, a little loose. And then this can go just a bit lower. And snap. There, it snapped it in place. So just use a stake to do that, and that way, you know, the old school they used to just push down with the tweezers, but there's a chance of wrecking the cannon pinion by doing that. So, and then the oil, you just need a little tiny bit of oil on the outside of the of this, or any friction coming from that, and I put a little tiny bit of oil in the minute wheel arbor, or shaft, whatever you want to call it. All that is good. And a little tiny bit of oil in the gears just to help them along, but not a lot, just a little tiny bit. And I've got to, I think I put too much there, so I got to Rodico that and get rid of some of that oil. Of course, the thing's coming out now. Great. Okay, there we go. That's good there. So that's good. And now I could put the face back on. I think I will put the face back on. Before I do that, I need to put in the spring on the top. Before that, I got to put in my hour wheel. So all in due course. And make sure that hour wheel sits in there nicely. There we go. It's down. And then this leaf, I can probably bend the leaf a little bit, just to make sure it's got a little bit of a bend on it, because right now it doesn't seem to have much of a bend at all. So let me just bend that a bit. Put that on. And these leaves, they always go from low in the middle to high on the edges. And then I know that 12 o'clock would be where the winding stem is. So this should just drop straight down like that. Let's try that out. And success. And just check out the other side here. Make sure that's in. Sort of sitting up high, but I can now pick it up here and then look for the screws here and loosen and tighten those screws. So these are the screws on the edge that you need to work with. It's going to be a long video. You guys can always fast forward it though, right? I believe that's possible. Alright, what's going on here? What is going on here? There we go. That one's in. This one is not in. Just don't want to bend these because that's not a good plan. So let's just loosen all this up again and make sure there's no issues. And sometimes you got to cozy things in. So this side is high. This side is low. So I'm going to change the angle a bit. Like that. And maybe get this one in first. I'll have a look down the hole here and make sure I'm clear. Yeah, I am. They're all good. So that's like that. 12 o'clock position. This should just slide right in. I think it's just at an angle, that's all. Looks like this one's bent a little. I'm not sure why, but it is. There we go. It's in. It was a little tiny bit bent, which is never good. So, and then I just move around here and tighten this up. Tighten these up, and you don't have to tighten them that hard. And just as I tighten them, I push down on the dial just a bit, but not too much so as to damage the dial or crack it or something, right? So just a bit. And I'm going to check the snap on the pallet again before I continue. So there we go. So that's in now. And then just rest this along the edge here, and then it's very safe there, so there's no issue because it's going to be resting on the rim here more. So actually, let me think here. Do I want that resting on that? I guess lightly I could do that. Let me think here. Yeah, I can put it down lightly, just lightly. Maybe I'll put it on my cushion instead. There we go. I got this Veritas cushion, which is like the world's softest cushion. So everything is all together now. I just want to see if there's a snap on the pallet fork. So when I touch it with a piece of wood, is it going to snap? Because if it snaps, that means I'm getting power to the through everything. So check that out here. Yeah, there we go. All right, so that's that. Now I gotta get a drink of water. Last but not least, I need to deal with the bridge and everything else. So the watch is nice and clean. Should take my Rodico and get rid of any fingerprints and marks on it. This was fun, I'm telling you. It's a lot of work. I wanted to put a little tiny bit of oil on the bridge right in here. So just oil that up and the oil will go inside, and then dab the top with Rodico. And I need to oil these jewels here. Center jewel, and I already oiled the other side, so they should be fine. And one here. This one here. And that's already, the oil, the cap jewels are already done and oiled, so there's no issue there at all. And what else do I have to do? Let me think. I've got to work on the balance, so I'll just move this out of the way for now. I'm going to turn this around. So that's snapping nicely, but I'll just leave that in the holder here. The infamous holder. The holder of all holders, as they call it. Let me see. Put that in like that. That's good. Lower plate or upper plate? Just like this, maybe? Just like that. Alright. That'll do. So I'll just move this out of the way. And now I've got to work on the balance. So end this. Alright, so what I want to do here is just shift the balance over so that I can very easily work on this thing without a problem. So I'm going to loosen the screws on the top. I'm going to make sure that the regulator pin is supported when I do that, because what I want to do is get access to the jewel on the top to make sure that that's clean. So loosen this one here. Jeez, these things are on tight, man. Loosen the other one. So make sure you're not squishing anything. So this one here I'm going to remove completely. Looks like I may have already removed it. No, it's still sitting there. I was pushing on that, and it fell out now. Oh, it's just sitting there on the top. So let me just remove that screw. Put that in the center target I got, and then I should be able to lift this up just a bit, just a tad, to get it out of the holder, and then I rotate the whole thing over, and this will rotate everything out of the way. Should anyway. There we go. Just rotating the whole thing out of the way. There. Now I've got access to the jewel, and I've got access to the other side as well. So I'm going to tighten this screw up just a bit. So I know this probably is an uncanny way of doing it, but man, this works well. So there we go. So that's, now I can turn that around, and I have access to the surface of that jewel, and it's pretty much 99% access to that. And I can take my little stick of Rodico here, or not Rodico, but pegwood, and I will scrape the top of that jewel with pegwood. Right? This could be a long movie, by the way. Scrape the top of that jewel with pegwood to get rid of the leftovers from before. And that did it, and it's clean as a whistle. And then flip that over, right? And the jewel is right here. So, and actually that looks pretty friggin' clean too. So that's that. And then I can take some really clean Rodico. I don't want to use any dirty stuff, but the stuff is not too bad here. Hasn't had the all the experience the other Rodico has. And just tap that on the top in case there's anything at all on there, like that. Flip it over, and what I want to do is put a little bit of oil on that, but as I move it back, I'm going to lift it up so it doesn't smudge the oil and it actually reaches the top. And it's a bit very light oil here and not a lot, so just do that, tap that. It's indented as well a bit, so it should be fine. And there I got the oil on the top, and clean my oiler, and just turn that around, giving you a play-by-play. I got to loosen the screw again. I don't want to loosen it all the way because I want to be able to just rotate everything back into place. There we go. And now I just have to rotate that back into place. I just need to move the top plate over. Like so. See if I can see that screw. Yep, I can see the screw hole, and my screw is stuck to my Rodico because I left my Rodico in my circle of continuity. See, so when I put this down, I got to make sure the regulator pins drop through so I don't have a problem there. And then just drop the screw in here. And it goes through the hole. Try that again. Stuff is, I'm not sure how they did it back in the ancient days, but anyway, it's touchy stuff, I'm telling you. Okay, that screw's lined up now. The hole's lined up. And let's see if I can drop the screw in here. I'm actually holding my breath while I'm doing this. That didn't work. Let me put the screw in, see if that works. I doubt if it will, but try it. This thing is going to fall again. Anyway, I'm going to turn the video off while I do this because I hate recording the long. There, I got it back in like 2 seconds. The second I take the video off, it works. So I do that, then I just put it down here, make sure that regulator pin is in the hole so it doesn't, and I just have to tighten this up a bit. Tighten this one up. There we go. And you got to make sure you don't strip anything when you do that. So there it is. Back in business, ladies and gentlemen. So that's perfect. So now the next thing I need to do is put the balance back on. Let me just have a look at this. There's the balance. What a beautiful thing that is. That looks really nice, actually. And I'm going to just rest that over the top to see if I've got, if I'm in beat. So just ever so slightly, as just an intermediate test before I assemble it. So I'm going to lay this down, and don't want to squish anything here, but there we go. Now I just need to put the balance cock back in. I think this thing needs to be down a bit further, so is that good? That's good. I just squish it just a bit. There we go. So now I just have to put the balance cock back in, because I want to see where where it would be with reference to the center. So that's where the balance is, right there. I'll just put that screw in, because what I want to do is pick the balance up and look at where the center jewel is over the top. So I can just put that in place like that, like this. And then I may not be able to do this over here. Can I move it back? Yeah, I can move it back. So here's the balance, and the stud is over on this side. So I'm going to turn this around and look at the where the jewel is. See, the jewel, if you look at that, the jewel is not centered with the balance. So the jewel for the roller table is over on the edge there. So the jewel is actually facing, it's actually between these two screws right here. It's between these two screws here, which are probably temperature screws. So that's kind of crappy. So that means the jewel is at an angle like that, which may or may not be good. But it's not right angled to the balance arms. It's kind of over like this. So the balance arms are sideways, and you basically have to draw a line from where the balance is here, right? Where right there, the balance fork, or the pallet fork, straight through, and yeah, that's ticking away. So the line goes straight through like that. So that's where the line needs to be. So if I had I'd lay something down there, but if that's the toothpick, right? Just see if I can lay this toothpick down here for the heck of it, right? And there's where the line needs to be. So if I look at the this balance right now, and there's the stud, and I were to have the stud, and it's not like you draw a line from here to where the stud would hold it, right? Like that. And so this is center, and that's where the stud is. So the stud's just got to be just to the right of center. So if center's there and the stud is to the right of center, I'm having a problem laying this stupid stick down. The stupid stick technique is not so good. I think Mark and the rest of the guys would be going, "What are you doing, JD?" I'm telling you. There it is there. So that's the stud. So right now, if I look at this, if I look at where the stud is and the balance is like that, the stud is like this, and the impulse jewel, see if that's lined up. And it's pretty close, I'm telling you. Yeah. So if I take this stick away here and I just say, okay, I know that the impulse jewel is between these two things. If I look at these two screws, if I look at it right down the center of the barrel here, the impulse jewel, it's funny, the impulse jewel is on the top, eh? There it is. Okay. So the impulse jewel is pretty much lined up between these two screws. It's just to the left of those two screws. So if the impulse jewel is lined up like that, and I line everything up like this, there, like over the top, like this, it looks as though the balance, the hairspring needs to go counterclockwise, just a slight turn, so to correct the bead error. So I'm going to try doing that. Slight turn counterclockwise for the bead error, and let me see if I can do that without screwing things up here. Pick a hole, any hole. All right, there we go. So you got to go counterclockwise that way with a real small screwdriver. And the good news is I don't have to worry too much about snagging it, because it's not on the it's not attached to the balance cock. So this, I'm just going to move it ever so slightly and then look down again and see what it looks like. I don't even know if I moved it. Let me look down again, just for the halibut, and look straight down. and see whether, I'll put my glasses on here and see how close I am. So the impulse jewel is, you know what, I can't use these because they're just too close. Oh man. Alright, so the impulse jewel is, okay, if I put the stud and everything, line everything up to the center jewel like this, you know what, it might have moved it. That looks pretty friggin' centered right now. Yep, I think I moved it just a tad. A tad! So now I'm just going to reassemble the balance, wherever it is. Where did I put the balance? Oh yeah, it's in here. Oh yeah, not very bright. Nice guy, but he's not too smart. Just put this down like that. So I just have to reassemble the balance into the watch with the hairspring and everything in there, and then measure it and see what I got. Hopefully everything works. It's a praying involved, and just various techniques for reassembling this thing. But what I found is that if I lean this on some Rodico at an angle, and I can approach the balance at an angle with my microscope, I can put that in real easy. So what I do is I create a little platform like this, and I make it like a ski slope. So it's kind of narrow on one side and fat on the other side. That's a bit of a ski slope, like so, right? And then I rest the balance on that ski slope, and I move the bridge close to it with tweezers, and I tap in the stud and the jewel, and everything works fine. So that's the technique I've got now, and I'm not going to show you this because I got to swing over my microscope to do it. So I'm going to grab a brand new piece of Rodico to do this because I don't want to put the old Rodico in the base of the pivot of that balance. Alright, it's oiled and cleaned and yabba dabba doo. Use a brand new Rodico, which is always nice to use. And now I'm going to put the balance back, get rid of a few of these things here, and put the balance back in the watch. And again, I'm going to pray, because that's what you do when you do stuff like that. So I'm going to feed the balance in this way and then go this way, which means I've got to take the very small palette fork here and swing it to the other side, and then grab the balance like this and come in this way very carefully. I got it set for super fast right now because I needed to get it out of the way to get this set up properly. So just going to scoot that in like that. Hopefully it finds its home somewhere. Not sure if that's in right or not, but and I've got some ticking going on, which is friggin' excellent. There we go. It's ticking. Gotta let it work in. And I put the screw back in here. So that was a successful cleaning. And I did think I nudged the balance over ever so slightly, so I think we're good there. And I'm just going to put this screw back in place here. And I've got to, yeah, it's nice. That is nice. It's working well. Looks like it's strong. Let me see. Yeah, it's not too bad. It's running fairly strong. I need to wind it some more, I'm sure. And it's going to work its way in. And I've got to center this a bit because it's way over the other side. So I'm going to just use my fingernail and move this over. like so, and then center that up, and then I'm going to see what kind of timing it's keeping. Now I also have to reach in there and put a little bit of oil in the palette forks. Again, that's another job I do with my microscope. So put a little bit of this on the jewels and the palette fork as well. And I think I probably should do that right now. And I'm just going to check the timing and the beat error and all that stuff and see if I can regulate this while it's sitting here. Right now it's time to case the watch, and case the watch and then time it again, but the beat error is at 0.69. So I'm casing the watch right now. I just put the other case screw in, and I'm just tightening up the case screws here. It did for some reason jump, the jewel jumped or something. I had to reset the balance on it because it looked like it was jumping, which is strange. But there you go, up and running. And I believe I'll do a test on it to make sure I got good amplitude and everything else, and let it run for a while. And I got to put the hands on now. Hands. It jumped again, see that? Interesting. Interesting. Completely interesting why it would jump like that. So I turned that upside down and it jumped, which doesn't make any sense at all. Doesn't look like there's a problem with end shake. Oh, there we go. Might be that lever thing that's over the wheel, whatever the hell that thing does. So I have to talk to the guy who owns the watch and find out if it jumped before like that, because everything's in there tight, so it doesn't make any sense. I should let it run for a day. Turn it upside down, turn it right side up. Nothing seems to be jumping now, so I don't know. Strange, man. Very strange. It's got a crazy lever mechanism though, so it's kind of odd. So why that thing would jump at all, I don't know. To ask the boys. Let me turn it around and see if it's still running. I don't think it stopped again. Did it stop, or it's just me? No, it's still running. Still much ticking going on in my office here that I can't tell whether things are running or not. Alright, looks like this watch has another problem, and the problem is that it looks like the impulse jewel is riding up high. And when I looked at that impulse jewel before, it looked like somebody put a big blob of shellac on it. So there may be more work involved here than I thought. Because if I've got to adjust that impulse jewel, because it's not touching, it's very high, right? When I look at it, it's riding up high, which means when the palette fork goes by, there's a chance that that impulse jewel might jump the palette fork, and then I've got that problem that I'm seeing where it's overbanking on one side, or I think it's called overbanking, but it's overbanking on one side, which is not good. So I'm going to have a look, just a quick look at that impulse jewel. So I think I left the screw in here, not very bright. There we go. Yeah, I'm going to look at that impulse jewel and see whether that's, in there good or not, because if it's not in there and it's loose, then there's a whole other game here. So this would explain why my friend there couldn't get a good beat on it, because the impulse jewel was loose. So that would explain everything. So I'm going to just steady this down and get my close-up goggles in and have a look at the impulse jewel. Yeah, I got to take the balance off again. I'll do a close-up and show you what it looks like. And I'll have to fix that and then shellac on a new impulse jewel and maybe take the roller table off. Not sure if I can do it with the roller table on. And see where we go. As you can clearly see, the impulse jewel is pushed up halfway through the roller table, and I did that. So I just touched it with my tweezers and the thing went up. So this impulse jewel needs to be shellacked back in place, and that is why I'm sure that is why you couldn't adjust the bead error properly before. The gentleman couldn't do it because it's a major problem. It needs to be fixed. I may have to strip this balance down completely now and work on that. So this has become a little more difficult a job than I started off with. So we shall see.